In the book Adversity Quotient, in reference to Mount Everest, there are 3 categories of people that Dr. Stoltz mentions. The first category are quitters. Those are the ones who at least they make the attempt, they do start, but they quit. They stop. It's all over. That's it. All of us that are here today and those listening to this on CD or podcast, we all started. We all started. We started by being born, but some people, that's it, and then they quit. They give up on the things of God. They give up on the purposes of God in their lives. Number 2, there are campers. And campers grow weary, and therefore they don't follow through. And they find instead a comfortable plateau. And when they find a comfortable plateau, they stop there. They no longer seek to ascend to the top. They no longer seek to complete their goal. Instead, they simply find comfort and they rest. And I've watched it through life. I've had friends that I've watched who have simply chosen to be comfortable because things were uncomfortable long enough, and they chose to rest at a plateau in their lives. They hide from adversity. They sit it out for their remaining years. Here, at this point, life isn't everything that it could be, but it's just enough. The third group are climbers. The word quit is not in their vocabulary. They have a strong sense that there is something greater than themselves that's within them, calling them forward to something greater than they know. That is over and over again found in climbers who will not quit and will not camp. They are not derailed by setbacks. They continue to march on. They know doubts, they know questions, they know loneliness, but they do not quit. This defines Moses for us this morning. There are lessons we can learn about crisis and trials. The first one, and if you're taking notes, your crisis doesn't catch God off guard. I want to say it again. Your crisis does not catch God off guard. In Genesis 15, the 13th verse of Genesis 15, we find that all that is happening here with the Israelite slaves being enslaved in bondage and ultimately being freed, but not until many years have passed, was actually spoken to Abraham. Now, I didn't say Moses. I said Abraham. Let's look at this. In the 13th verse there of the 15th chapter, know for certain that your descendants, and God is saying this to Abraham, will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated 400 years. It was all spoken of right here. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterwards they will come out with great possessions. You, however, Abraham, will go to your fathers in peace and be buried at a good old age. What is God saying? God is saying that all these things will take place, and I'm not caught off guard by them. Abraham, you will go in peace, and you will die before you see these things, because Abraham, it's really not about you, it's about me. And I'm going to continue what I'm doing generation after generation after you. Sometimes we think it's all about me, and everything's done because of my power and my abilities. And Moses felt that as he said, oh, my faltering lips, that's going to make it so that these slaves are not set free. No, it won't. God's bigger than every inadequacy that you have. Can I hear an amen? In Exodus, the 4th chapter, in the 21st verse of the 4th chapter, Moses will be told that the Pharaoh will not let the people go. He should not have been caught off guard. God was not caught off guard. But God is creating something inside of Moses. He is going from being an anonymous man in the desert to being God's mighty deliverer. And God is doing something there. Number 2, crisis defines us. Number 1 was your crisis doesn't catch God off guard. Number 2 is crisis defines us. Moses would learn a lesson. He would learn the lesson that it was not about his ability, meaning Moses' ability, his ability to speak, his ability, to do anything. Instead, it was about Moses' response to the ability of God in his generation. That is what it was all about. Moses kept thinking about his eloquence. God was thinking instead, did he have a man who had a heart that was moldable that he could use? Jacob, when he's wrestling in the tent, and it's one of my favorite scriptures. You see Jacob wrestling, and Jacob is wrestling with this heavenly visitor, and as he's wrestling with this heavenly visitor, who is another Christophany, Jesus on the scene before Bethlehem, and he's wrestling with this heavenly being. And at first he thinks that maybe his brother Esau is taking him over, but then he recognizes that the one that he's wrestling can bless him, and so he's wrestling, and he finds himself winning. And now I remember his power is what it's all about, and not my own. The third and last thing that I want to share with you is that crisis is an opportunity for us to become aligned more fully with God's heart and with God's ways. I'll say that again. Crisis is an opportunity for us to become aligned more fully with God's heart and with God's ways. Moses' confession would turn from rehearsing all of his inadequacies to something else. And I want to read just the first 4 verses. And sometimes, at some point, you can read it all the way through in Exodus 15. But you'll catch the gist of what I'm saying, what Moses was singing and the people were singing in Exodus 15. Listen to this, and it sounds like a different Moses. It's not the Moses who's asking God why. It isn't the Moses who's finding himself inadequate. Listen to this.